Hi and welcome to Coddiwompling Along the Tao with Noel Eastwood, and this is episode 12 and I'm talking about the Hierophant. What I'm going to do is, like I did last couple of times, is make sure that I use my cheat sheet. Otherwise I'll be wandering all over the place. There it is. Hang on, I can make it bigger, so if you want to take a screenshot of this, feel free. You want to pause the video and take notes, please do so. The idea is that I cover the material without wandering all over the place, which is my want. Right, I'm going to get up the first card of the Hierophant. Here we go. There, whoop. I'm good at this, aren't I? Here is the Hierophant. I'd like to just quickly walk through what I've written down here. Arthur Edward Waite, the guy that commissioned Pixie Coleman Smith to do the artwork for the Waite Rider Coleman Smith tarot deck, which is what this card comes from. He believed that the major arcana provided a guideline, like like signposts to enlightenment. It was the pathway to enlightenment. It was the mystic's path, the mystic's journey. His background was Freemasonry, the Hermetic Order of Golden Dawn, Rosicrucianism, and I think he even started his own order. So he was a prolific researcher and author and practitioner of magic. So he knew his stuff. That's important for us to remember, because the Fool's journey through the major arcana is his interpretation of the journey, and it actually, there's a cognate sort of resonance there with it. Let me just start what we've covered so far. So here we have the Fool. The Fool's mystic journey begins with this open, naive approach to life. He just walks out there and trusts. That means that he's not going to be judgmental of what he is offered or the experiences that he is given. He meets the magician, who hands him the four cornerstones of walking the mystic's path, and that is the four elements: earth, air, water and fire. We've got the coin of pentacles, we've got the dagger of swords, we've got the cup, four cups, and we've got the wand of the wand suit. And that's the wand is the book that I'm writing now. Those four elements are here. Now this is my SoundCloud.com Noel Eastwood page. It's free. These are meditations that I've had for years. I've I recorded these originally over 30, well, some of them over 30 years ago, initially on a cassette with music playing on the stereo in the background, with my voice being recorded on the cassette. And I would copy these cassettes and give them to clients for my clinical hypnotherapy and psychotherapy practice. I've since recorded on digital. This is a self-hypnosis one that a lot of you are already using, and as I've told you, a lot of people tell me that I put them to bed at night, put them to sleep, which is pretty cool. This one is what I used when I learnt self-hypnosis. It is that's a cornerstone for my work. But the pyramid crystal and the four elements was a way of introducing an experiential approach to your meditations. That I had a particular client that couldn't do this and he couldn't do that, and he struggled with his meditations, and I thought, okay, what can you close your eyes and feel yourself doing? And he said, I like fire. I like imagining that I'm a flame. Aha, thought I. So that's when I made this particular meditation for him, and it's a bit of a ripper. So the books on the Fool's Journey, Pentacles, Swords, Cups and Wands, is you can access some of the energies there, or the tone of that suit in that meditation. So I just wanted to show you that, because it's a bit of a shortcut. If you can go in there and have a physical experience of what the suit is about, that gives you a bit of a heads up on what to do. And yeah. So let's go back to the tarot. So Fallen, the Fool, meets a magician, and then he meets the High Priestess. So the High Priestess's role there is to teach the Fool to be quiet, to quiet his mind, to stop the internal dialogue so that he can listen to his intuition. And that is a cornerstone of all magical systems. Shamanism, Zen, Buddhism, Taoism, you name it, they all start with silence. Training your mind to be quiet allows you to listen. I've had many people say, you know what, I can't hear anything. Well, if you are quiet, your intuition can get a word in edgeways, because our internal dialogue gets in the way. So the High Priestess is absolutely critical. I love her to bits. The Empress introduces the Fool to centeredness. So she introduces him to his power. This is a magical thing. This is such a super cool card or archetype, that she can introduce the apprentice magician, Fallen in the books, to find his power, because it is this internal power that we all have access to, and which is what the Chi healing meditation is all about, is accessing that power, your life force. And she teaches him how to breathe energy. And then that centered walking is to change the movement of energy through his body, so that he can access that centered life force for power in his dreams and during daily life. Then the introduces Fallen to an external management of his world, to be responsible, to approach things in a balanced way, and to set boundaries for negotiations with others. So we've got internal, and then external. Although the magician is both external and internal. Okay, let's go back here to the good old Hierophant. The Hierophant, or the word originally, here we go. This is the Visconti Sorzi deck, one of the earliest decks that we have available. There's only one original copy, I think, in a museum somewhere in Italy. Here is the Pope. That's the Hierophant. And it was called the Pope for the next 300-400 years. There was no Hierophant until Coddiwompling changed the name. So that's a very classic Holy Roman Catholic Pope. We have him in his robes. Looks probably on a throne. He's got his triple-decked hat on. He's got his cross there and his staff. And he's doing his special little finger thing. There is a classic Pope. And then along came Coddiwompling in I think in the 1780s. And he introduced the word, the Hierophant, or Hierophant, which is Greek for the High Priestess of the Elysian mystery cult. So it's, the Greeks had a lot of gods, just like the other religions can have other gods, like Hinduism. And each god has their own temple and their own following. And the Elysians had their own cult, like the Dionysians, the Bacchanalians. Hera had her own cult. Persephone, Demeter had her own cult. And they were all mystery cults. And Coddiwompling obviously fell in love with the Elysian mystery cult, and he renamed the Pope card to become the Hierophant. So prior to that, this is what we had, the Pope. Here we go. This is, down the bottom here, the Pope. This is the Marseille deck from what, 1750 or something. Very, very similar to this one. So we can see that Pamela Coleman Smith borrowed a lot of the imagery, of course, under the direction of Waite. And we have a beautiful, very, very attractive presentation there. The Hierophant, Gibelin. Okay, remember Court de Gabelin, and he is actually worth looking up. You can just jump onto the Wikipedia page for Court de Gabelin and read up on him, because he made some radical changes, he and his contemporaries. Read about this. This is very important for us as taroists and those walking the path of the mystic, is know your history, know your field of endeavor. He thought that the tarot was from an Egyptian mystery cult, and so his interpretation was in that direction. Remember, the Pope crowned emperors and empresses. He crowned kings and queens. He was top dog. He was mighty, mighty powerful. And we look down here, not in this card, but in this card we have the keys of St. Peter. Looks like we got a bit of Freemasonry here. These could be the pillars of King Solomon's temple, which of course is biblical as well. We have a very biblical Christian Hierophant. Okay, so the role of the Hierophant in the deck, or in the Fool's journey, in your journey, the mystic's journey, he is a teacher of life. He represents the eternal student and the eternal teacher. He seeks out truth. He's not interested in rhetoric. He's not interested in empty words. He just wants the truth. And he is very Taoist, like the others in this deck, in my interpretation. So you must remember that the work that I do is how I interpret it. Okay, so don't take everything that I say as gospel. It's important that you have your own interpretation. Borrow from me and borrow from other people what rests comfortably with you, because I know that there would be a whole lot of people that would go, that's not accurate. He is the mentor, the wise teacher, the master of knowledge. An important thing that I wanted to introduce in the Fool's Journey series is that he teaches people how to learn. And my background is teaching as well. And there's a fellow called, I'll get to it later. He teaches people how to learn, and he's written a number of books. I've probably got one somewhere on my shelf there. In fact, I'll jump in now and try and find it. Here it is, I found it. Make the Most of Your Mind. I found this book last century, quite a while ago. Tony Buzan, he teaches people how to learn. And I was going through, I'd been teaching. I left teaching and went back to university to study psychology, and the study psychology at university level was pretty frightening, and I was failing abysmally until I found this fellow, and combining mind mapping, his techniques and strategies, and my meditations, I went from failing to walking out of 3-hour exams as either the first person or the second person, and with a distinction average. It just made such a difference to my life. I was also working 3 jobs. I had my clinical hypnotherapy practice, and I also had 3 small children, a wife, mortgage, car, all that sort of thing. So I was pretty damn busy. So finding something like this was magic. This was a gem. So anyone in this situation, or if you have someone, a child or yourself, grab that book. He's written a dozen books, probably more. A lot of them say much the same thing, but this was the one that made a difference to my life. Okay, let me get back here. So learning how to learn is actually critical because most of us don't know how to learn. We don't know that within 24 hours of learning something, you've forgotten 60% of what you just studied, what you've just learned. And that's why daily reviews, which is recommended in Tony Buzan's book. He presides over ceremonies, weddings, funerals, religious ceremonies, celebrations. So you can see that this guy holds tradition and culture in his hands. So he values and treasures the past wisdom, not the past dogma. He wants truth. And that's how I like to see him in my books. The Roman Catholic Church has for many centuries, and this is the model that we're using. This is what we have. This is what we have here. For centuries, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, the Roman Catholic Church has trained their people to be fully informed, to be experts in the arts of theology, debating, politics, finance, law. They can run the day-to-day activities of their church, their parish, their community. They know how to procure goods and services. They know how to get a bargain. They are taught to lead, to advise, to counsel, to nurture and to negotiate conflict between parties. Now, do they do it honourably? The vast majority do. There's a lot of bad eggs as well, and we all know that. All we've got to do is open the newspaper. So the Hierophant represents the positive side of all of this. He has spent lifetime after lifetime learning that tradition, learning how to learn and studying life and nature and people. He upholds customs and traditions. Now the beauty of this is that we went from something like this, whoops, we still got that one, to this, and now we have these wonderful interpretations of the card, the Hierophant. Many contemporary images show the role of both student and teacher, and we see the role adapted to one more popular and acceptable to our world community as a mentor, a student, teacher, advisor to common people as well as to rulers, companion and guide along the mystic's path, a wise one, be it male or female. So I'm just going to run through some pictures of modern or current interpretations of the Hierophant, because it just tells us that we don't want to be stuck by dogma. I don't like dogma. I'm very uncomfortable to be stuck with someone else's opinion that doesn't sit comfortably with me. Like this, I think this is the fairy tale deck. It's pretty cool. And if you have children, some of these decks are, great fun to play with. I got my grandchildren, Hanson Roberts, what's it called? Her deck, I've got it sitting up there, the Whimsical Tarot deck. And they're all, hang on, I'll grab them. Oh, pussycat. That's just my cat making funny screechy noises. Here we go. Sorry to be fiddling about like this, but yeah, I want to show you that deck, the Whimsical Tarot deck. So if you do have grandchildren or small children, this is just a way of introducing pretty pictures. They're from fairy tales. As you can see, that's the scarecrow from, I'm sorry, here we go, from The Wizard of Oz. Yeah. Okay, let me just keep on going. This from the Thoth deck, I think. Beautiful imagery. We evoke from that in our meditations what the the artist has interpreted for us. So we can borrow their interpretation by taking it into our meditation. Don't quite know what they're on about, but I think it's pretty cool. It's a fairly traditional one in some ways and very untraditional in others. Now, I wanted to show you the books because here we go. This is Robert Place's, from Robert Place's, one of his decks. He's got the Triple Crown there, he's got the Sun and Moon, he's got the Pillars, male and female, and here we have some esoteria. Hang on, shrink that down a bit. Again, we've got the book. So we've got the student of life, the teacher. That's what I wanted to show. Here we go. This is another one from, I think it's the Fairy Tale deck. This is from the Mystic Tarot, I think it's called, with Liz Green. And there is Chiron. And there's the scroll. Don't know what's on the scroll, but it's akin to a book. And Chiron, of course, was the god that lived at the bottom, or the immortal that lived at the bottom of Mount Olympus, and he taught the gods children. He was the wisest man, knew everything. And there's a whole story about Chiron. And if you're an astrologer, Chiron's pretty important because he's a tough dude. And what is this one? It's a mystery. Oh, here we go. I wanted this one because it's a female. Now, if you've read any of my work on the archetypes, when you close your eyes and go into your inner world to visit one of the archetypes, they're not always the gender that you first expect them to be. They're not always. Most of the time they are. The vast majority of times, the archetype that we see and work with is the archetype that we first envisioned. But they can change gender, so do not be surprised. And the fact that someone has envisaged the Hierophant as a woman, I think is pretty special. So don't get stuck, don't get caught out. So there is my introduction to the Hierophant. What I'm going to do is just put this back up here. If you want to, as I say, if you want a screenshot of that, or if you want to copy that down, please go ahead. These are my notes that I think I'm going to use all the time because it helps keep me on track and stops me going etc. Okay, thank you so much for watching and being with me and following me. Don't forget to put a like if you like these videos, and I'll catch you at the next presentation.